Hey there. Tonight we're slipping into a world where time softens, where the relentless pulse of empire fades into the quiet murmur of water and stone. We're not chasing the glory of gladiators or the intrigues of senators. We're stepping into the thermae, the public baths of ancient Rome, where the body was a temple and bathing was a sacred act of renewal. This isn't just about washing away dirt. It's a whispered journey into self-care, ritual, and the art of slowness, a deliberate pause in a city that never slept. Forget the modern world's hustle, the constant ping of notifications, the race to nowhere. In Rome, bathing was a religion, a daily ritual that wove together body, mind, and soul, open to everyone from slaves to emperors for the price of a single coin. So, before we dive in, dim the lights, light a candle for that soft, flickering glow, or turn on a fan to mimic the distant hum of water. If this resonates, hit that like button, subscribe if you're feeling the vibe, and drop a comment to let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always wild to see who's joining us from across the globe. Now take a deep breath. Imagine the warmth of steam curling around your skin, and let's walk into ancient Rome together, where stillness was a gift, and the baths were its sanctuary. It's 150 CE, and you're standing before the baths of Trajan, a sprawling marvel of marble and brick that hums with life. The sun is sinking, painting the sky in hues of amber and bruised plum, and the air carries the scent of baked earth, olive oil, and the faint tang of wood smoke from distant hearths. The aqueducts, those towering ribbons of stone stretching across the countryside, feed this place with crystal clear water from springs miles away, a feat of engineering that makes this sanctuary possible. You're weary, your sandals are crusted with dust from the Via Appia, your tunic heavy with the sweat of a day spent hauling grain, haggling in the forum, or dodging the tax collector's glare. Rome is relentless, its noise, its crowds, its endless demands. But here, at the threshold of the thermae, the world shifts. You're not here to rush. You're here to linger, to cleanse, to reclaim yourself from the city's grasp. The thermae are more than bathhouses. They're a philosophy, a ritual etched into the heart of Roman life. For a single quadrans, less than the cost of a loaf of barley bread, anyone could enter, making the baths a rare space where Rome's rigid hierarchies softened, if only for a moment. Emperors bathed beside slaves, women laughed alongside men, senators shared steam with shopkeepers. This was self-care democratized, a daily reminder that your body deserved care, your mind deserved rest, your soul deserved stillness. The Romans built their baths as grand as temples, as vital as aqueducts, because they knew that to pause was to live. Tonight, we'll walk through this ritual step by step, feeling the warmth, the cold, the weight of water and time. We'll explore not just the baths, but what they meant to the body, to the city, to the universal human need for slowness in a world that never stops. Let's begin in the apoditerium, the changing room, where the journey into stillness starts with the simple act of shedding. You step through the grand entrance of the baths of Trajan, and the world transforms. The cacophony of Rome, cartwheels clattering on cobblestones, vendors shouting about ripe figs and garum, senators arguing in sharp, clipped tones, fades to a distant hum like the sea heard through a shell. The air inside is warm, damp, heavy with the scent of olive oil, crushed rosemary, and wet stone. Your feet touch the mosaic floor, its tiny tiles forming intricate scenes, dolphins leaping through sapphire waves, Triton blowing his conch, nymphs dancing in a sea of emerald and gold. The tiles are cool at first, then warm as you feel the hypocaust system. Rome's ingenious underfloor heating, working its magic, sending heat from unseen furnaces through channels beneath your soles. The warmth seeps into your feet, loosening the ache from hours spent on Rome's unforgiving streets. This isn't just a bathhouse. It's a cosmos, a sanctuary where the chaos of the city is tamed, where time slows to the rhythm of breath and water, where the body becomes a canvas for care. The apoditerium, the changing room, is where the ritual begins, and it's alive with the pulse of Rome itself. The space is vast, its vaulted ceiling painted with a starry sky, comets and constellations swirling in deep blue, as if the heavens themselves watch over this act of renewal. Oil lamps hang from bronze chains, their flames casting a golden glow that dances across the marble walls. The air hums with voices. A merchant boasts about a deal struck at the Forum Boreum, his voice loud and brassy, cutting through the chatter. A poet, half drunk on watered wine, recites verses about love and loss to a crowd that barely listens, their laughter drowning his words. A child darts between legs, chasing a wooden ball that rolls across the floor, its clatter echoing off the stone. You weave through the crowd, your tunic clinging to your skin, stiff with the dust and sweat of a day spent under Rome's relentless sun. You're weary, not just in body, but in spirit. The weight of the city presses on you, its demands relentless, its noise unceasing. Let's pause and imagine who you might be. Perhaps you're Lucius, a baker, your hands dusted with flour, your shoulders raw from kneading dough since before dawn. Your bakery in the Subura is a furnace, its oven belching heat while you shape loaves for the morning rush. Today, a customer shortchanged you, and a rat stole half a loaf cooling on the counter. The memory stings, but here, in the apoditerium, it begins to fade. Or maybe you're Calpurnia, a matron of a modest house, your fingers calloused from spinning wool, your mind heavy with the news of your daughter's betrothal. A good match, but one that pulls at your heart. You've come to the baths not just to cleanse, but to think, to find clarity in the steam. Or perhaps you're Tiro, a slave in a wealthy household, your back scarred from a master's whip, your hands raw from scrubbing floors. The baths are your 1 hour of freedom, a place where your chains are left at the door, where you're more than a tool. Whoever you are, the apoditerium welcomes you, its purpose unchanging, to strip away the day, to prepare you for the ritual of stillness. You find a stone cubby, its edges worn smooth by countless hands, and slip off your tunic. Its rough wool, patched at the elbows, stained with wine from a hasty lunch in a papina, heavy with the scent of smoke and sweat. You fold it carefully, not because it's precious, but because it's yours. One outfit, worn day after day, washed in the Tiber. When you can spare the time, you tuck it into the cubby alongside your sandals, their leather brittle, their soles thin as papyrus from years of trudging Rome's roads. You hesitate, glancing around. Pickpockets haunt the apoditerium, their fingers deft in the chaos of the crowd. You spot a slave, a wiry lad with a scar across his cheek, his eyes sharp but kind. You press a few bronze asses into his palm and he nods, promising to guard your things. Trust is a gamble in Rome, but you're here to let go, to surrender, to the ritual. So you take the chance. An attendant approaches, his tunic crisp white linen, his hands calloused from years of service. He hands you a small clay vial of olive oil, its surface cool against your palm, the amber liquid inside catching the lamplight's glow. The oil smells of earth and sunlight, a promise of cleansing to come. With it comes a strigil, a curved, metal tool that looks more like a carpenter's blade than a toiletry. Its edge is smooth, polished, designed to glide over skin, scraping away dirt and sweat in a ritual as old as Rome itself. You tuck both under your arm, wrapping a linen cloth around your waist. The cloth is thin, clinging to your skin in the humid air, but it feels like a second skin. a signal that you're shedding the world of Rome outside. The Romans understood the power of preparation, every step deliberate, every gesture a ritual, a way to mark the transition from the chaos of the streets to the stillness of the baths. Let's linger here, in the apoditerium, to feel its pulse and its weight. The walls are lined with niches, each holding a statue of a god or a hero. There's Aesculapius, god of medicine, his staff entwined with a serpent, his marble skin glowing faintly in the lamplight. You whisper a prayer. For health, a reflex born of habit as you pass. Nearby stands a statue of Venus. Her serene curves a reminder that beauty is divine, that caring for the body is a form of worship, a holy thing. Hygeia, goddess of health, watches over from another niche. Her calm gaze a promise of renewal. The Thermae weren't built for utility alone. They were sacred spaces, temples dedicated to the gods of health, of beauty, and of the soul to the body. Every detail, from the mosaics to the stars above, speaks of this purpose. To care for the self is a divine act, a way to honor the gods who gave you breath and bones. You glance around at the others around you, each a story in motion, a story. A senator, his toga traded for a simple loincloth, argues with a freedman about the price of grain, his gestures grand even in undress. A woman, her hair pinned with bone combs, laughs softly with a friend as they tie their cloths, their voices, light with gossip about a consul's latest indiscretia. A slave, his tunic threadbare, his shoulders marked with the scars of labor, moves quietly through the crowd, carrying a stack of fresh linen towels, his eyes fixed on the floor. The apoditerium is a microcosm of Rome. Every class, every struggle, every dream, all woven together in this one space. But here, the rules bend. The senator's wealth buys him no better cubby than the slave's. The woman's laughter carries as much weight as the poet's verses. For a moment, Rome's rigid hierarchies soften, blurred by the shared act of shedding, of stepping into the ritual of self-care of care. Let's follow Lucius, the baker, for a moment. His hands are rough, dusted with flour that's worked its way into the lines of his skin. He's 42, his back stooped from years at the oven, his eyes red from smoke and lack of sleep. His bakery in the Subura is a cramped, sweltering place, its walls blackened by the furnace that feeds his family's trade. Today was rough. A customer paid with clipped coins, barely enough to buy flour for tomorrow's loaves, and a rat stole a crust cooling on the counter, a small loss that feels like a defeat. Lucius carries this weight into the apoditerium, his jaw tight, his thoughts circling on debts and hunger. But as he stands here, folding his tunic, feeling the warmth of the mosaics underfoot, something shifts. The chatter of the crowd, the scent of oil, the flicker of lamps, they pull him out of his worries, anchoring him in the present. He rubs his hands, feeling the flour flake away, and takes a slow breath. The apoditerium is working its magic, loosening his grip on the day's troubles, preparing him for the ritual to come, for renewal. Now, let's meet Calpurnia, the matroness. She's in her late 30s, her auburn hair pinned in a simple braid, her hands calloused from spinning wool for her household's clothes. Her family is respectable but not wealthy. Her husband is a merchant who trades spices from the east, leaving her to manage their home in the Aventine. Today, she finalized her daughter's betrothal, a match to a wealthy family that promises security but means losing her girl to another household. The decision weighs on Calpurnia, a knot of pride and sorrow. She's come to the baths not just to cleanse her body, but to cleanse her mind, to find clarity in the ritual's rhythm. As she folds her stola, a fine wool dyed a deep blue, she feels the eyes of other women, some curious, some envious. Gossip follows her, whispers about her husband's debts, but here, in the Purnia Apoditerium, she lets it slide away. She ties her cloth, the linen cloth, its dampness cool against her skin, and meets the gaze of Hygeia's statue. The goddess understands loss and strength, and Calpurnia draws a quiet resolve from her stone eyes, a quiet strength. And then there's Tiro, the slave. He's 22, his back a map of scars from a master who rules with a whip. Tiro serves in a grand villa on the Palatine, scrubbing floors, carrying water, polishing silver until his hands bleed. The baths are his one escape, paid for with a coin slipped from a guest's purse, a risk that could cost him dearly, but worth it for this hour of freedom. In the apoditerium, he stands astraight, his tunic threadbare, his eyes wary but alive. He has no cubby, no belongings to guard, only his body and the cloth he wears. But here he's not just a slave. The attendant hands him oil and a strigil with the same care as the senator, and Tiro feels a fleeting dignity, a sense that his body matters. He watches the child chase the ball, laughing, and for a moment, Tiro remembers a brother he hasn't seen since they were sold apart at a market. The apoditerium gives him this, a space to be human, to shed his chains, if only for an hour, to prepare for a ritual that promises renewal, even for the lowest. The apoditerium is a liminal space, a threshold between the Rome's chaos and the stillness within. It's where you shed your identity, baker, matron, slave, and become a stranger to the world's demands, ready to be known to yourself again. The Romans understood this alchemy of shedding, this transformation. They built their baths to be functional, yes, but also sacred, temples to the gods of health and beauty, to the body as a vessel. The mosaics beneath your feet, the statues watching from their niches, the starry ceiling above, they're not just decoration. They're a reminder that every act of care is a prayer, every pause a ritual, every moment of stillness a gift from the gods. Let's linger on the mosaics for a moment, because they tell a story of their own. The dolphins leap through waves, their bodies curved in shades of blue and turquoise, each tile a tiny masterpiece, laid by hands as skilled as any painters. The Romans loved the sea, saw it as a source of life, but also of renewal, water, that cleansed, that carried, that connected their empire from Britannia to Egypt. The mosaic of Triton, his conch raised, is a call, not to the gods, but a call to you, to dive into this ritual with open heart, an open heart. The nymphs, their hair flowing like rivers, dance in a circle, their hands outstretched as if inviting you to join them. You trace a finger along the tiles, feeling their slight unevenness, the faint grooves where centuries of feet will one day wear them down. These mosaics aren't just art. They're a meditation, a way to focus, to slow your breath, to prepare your mind for the warmth and the water that waits beyond. The apoditerium is also a place of stories, of Rome's stories. You overhear the senator, his name Gaius Marcellus, complaining about the emperor's latest decree, a tax on grain that'll squeeze his estates in Sicily. His voice is loud, but there's a weariness in it, a hint that even power comes heavy at a cost. The freedman he's arguing with, a wiry man named Callus, counters with a tale of a shipwreck off Ostia, where he lost half his cargo of amphorae. Their argument is sharp, but it's laced with camaraderie, a shared frustration with a world that never stops demanding, that demands. Nearby, two women, one young, one old, gossip about a scandal, a consul's wife seen with a gladiator, her name whispered like a curse. Their laughter is a bell, clear and bright, cutting through the hum of the room. The apoditerium holds these stories, Rome's triumphs, its scandals, its losses, its triumphs, but it doesn't cling to them. They're part of the shedding, left behind as bathers move deeper into the ritual, deeper into care. Let's pause to consider the history of the apoditerium. the history of the baths themselves, for the baths of Trajan, built under Emperor Trajan, were a gift to Rome, a monument to imperial power, yes, but also to the people. Opened in 1095 CE, they sprawled across the Oppian Hill, their marble halls funded by the spoils of Dacian wars. Unlike the older private baths of the Republic, these public baths, thermae, were grand, accessible, a statement that Rome cared for its citizens, not just for their labour or their taxes, but for their bodies, for their souls. The Apoditerium reflects this ethos. Its mosaics, its statues, its space, its all. It's designed to elevate, to make even the humblest bather feel like a god for a moment. The Romans didn't invent bathing. Greeks had their gymnasia, Egyptians their river rituals, but they perfected the art, the ritual, weaving it into the fabric of daily life. By 1500 CE, Rome had hundreds of baths, from small balneae in neighbourhoods to colossi like Trajan's, serving millions who saw bathing as vital as bread or prayer. The Apoditerium is also a place of ritual, of preparation. You tie the linen, cloth tighter, feeling its dampness against your skin, a reminder that you're no longer in the world of work. You hold the vial of oil, its weight grounding you, the strigil cool against your thigh. The strigil. You're not just changing clothes, you're changing states, stepping out of time's rush, and into a rhythm older than Rome itself. The Romans understood this, that rituals need thresholds, that care begins with intention. The Apoditerium is that threshold, a space where you pause, where you shed, where you ready yourself to be ready. You take a final look around, the chatter, the gods, the mosaics, the stories, and you feel a shift. The weight of Rome, its debts, its heat, its grief, its scars, is lifting, if only for a moment, only for a moment. You're not Lucius, Calpurnia, or Tiro anymore. You're you, bare and human, standing at the edge of stillness. Let's reflect on slowness itself, because that's what the Apoditerium teaches. In a city of conquest, where legions march and markets churn, where every day is a battle for survival, the baths were a rebellion, a refusal to let life be consumed by empire's pace. The Apoditerium is the first lesson. To slow down is to reclaim power, to reclaim yourself. You feel your breath deepen, your shoulders soften, your jaw unclench. The poet's verses, now faint now, weave into the hum of voices, the clatter of the child's ball, a distant echo, the scent of olive oil, the warmth of the floor, the glow of lamps. They're anchors, pulling you into the present, into your body, into care. The Romans didn't have mindfulness apps or yoga retreats, but they had this, a space to linger, to prepare, to be. The Apoditerium is their gift, a reminder that slowness isn't weakness, it's strength. It's not laziness, it's wisdom. It's a wisdom. You take a final breath, the air thick with steam and possibility. The Apoditerium has done its work. It stripped you of Rome's weight, your weight, prepared you for the journey deeper into the baths, into the ritual. You push through the curtain, its linen heavy against your skin, and step into the tepidarium, where warmth waits to embrace you. But that's for later, for another chapter. For now, you carry the quiet of the Apoditerium with you, a quiet promise. A promise that stillness is possible, that care is sacred, that you are enough, even in a city that never stops. You push through the heavy linen curtain, its damp fibers brushing your skin like a whispered secret, and step from the bustling Apoditerium into the tepidarium, the warm room of the baths of Trajan. The transition is gentle, like slipping into a dream. The air wraps around you, soft and humid, warm but not yet searing, scented with faint traces of rosemary and damp stone. The noise of the changing room, its chatter, laughter and clatter of wooden balls, fades to a distant murmur, replaced by the subtle hum of the hippocaust system, the Roman marvel that heats the floor beneath your bare feet. The tiles are toasty, their warmth seeping into your souls, loosening the ache from hours spent on Rome's cobbled streets. You pause, feeling the shift. The tepidarium is a cradle, a space where time slows to the rhythm of your breath, where the ritual of self-care begins to unfold. This is no mere bathhouse. It's a sanctuary, a temple to the body and soul, where the chaos of 150 CE Rome dissolves into stillness, and the dance of heat begins. The tepidarium is vast, its marble walls gleaming under the golden flicker of bronze oil lamps suspended from chains. The ceiling arches high, painted with soft clouds against a twilight sky, as if the room itself breathes with the calm of dusk. Mosaics cover the floor, vines curling in emerald and amber, birds frozen mid-flight, their wings spread in delicate tiles. You trace a vine with your toe, feeling the slight texture of the grout, grounding yourself in this moment. The air is thick but not oppressive, a gentle humidity that softens your skin, coaxing your muscles to unclench. Around you, others move slowly, their linen cloths draped loosely, their faces softened by the warmth. A man leans against a marble bench, eyes closed, a faint smile on his lips. Two women sit nearby, their voices low, their hands gesturing as they share a story. The tepidarium is a place of ease, of preparation, where the body learns to surrender, to the ritual, to the slowness that Rome's streets deny. Let's linger here, in the tepidarium, to feel its embrace. You're still carrying the weight of the apoditerium's shedding, your tunic folded, your sandals stowed, your role as baker, matron, or slave left behind. Perhaps you're Lucius, the baker from the Subura, your hands still faintly dusted with flour, your shoulders aching from kneading dough since dawn. Or Calpurnia, the matron, your mind heavy with your daughter's betrothal, seeking clarity in the bath's quiet. Or Tyro, the slave, your scarred back a map of pain. This hour in the thermae, your one taste of freedom. Whoever you are, the tepidarium welcomes you, its warmth a promise. You are here to care for yourself, to pause, to be whole. You sit on a marble bench, its surface cool at first, then warming to your skin, smoothed by centuries of bodies before yours. The bench is wide, carved with faint floral patterns, a reminder that even the simplest act, sitting, breathing, is part of the ritual. The Hippocos system hums beneath you, a marvel of Roman engineering that makes this warmth possible. Hidden, below the floor, a network of channels carries hot air from furnaces stoked by slaves in unseen chambers. The heat rises through terracotta tiles, warming the floor, the benches, the very air you breathe. Terracotta pipes embedded in the walls hum faintly, their surfaces beaded with condensation, carrying heat to every corner of the room. You imagine the slaves below, their faces blackened with soot, their hands blistered from shoveling wood into the fires. Their labor is invisible, yet it sustains this sanctuary, a reminder that even Rome's grandeur rests on the unseen. That Hippocos is more than technology. It's a metaphor for the baths themselves, a system that supports, that warms, that transforms, all without fanfare. You close your eyes, letting the warmth sink into your bones, feeling the rhythm of the Hippocos like a heartbeat, steady and sure. The tepidarium is the first step in the dance of heat, a gentle introduction to the ritual's core. You hold the clay vial of olive oil from the apoditerium, its weight grounding you, the strigil tucked against your thigh. You're not ready to use them yet. This room is about softening, about preparing your body for the deeper cleansing to come. You lean back, your shoulders loosening, your neck unstiffening. The air smells of damp stone, faint herbs, and the subtle musk of bodies warmed by the room's embrace. There's no rush here, no deadline, no emperor barking orders. The tepidarium is a rebellion against Rome's relentless pace, a space where slowness is not just allowed but demanded. You feel your breath deepen, your thoughts quiet. The worries of the day, the clipped coins, the betrothal, the whip's sting, begin to dissolve, carried away by the warmth, by the ritual's promise. Let's follow Lucius for a moment, the baker whose hands bear the scars of his trade. He sits on a bench across from you, his broad frame hunched at first, his eyes fixed on the mosaic floor as if tracing the vines might untangle his thoughts. The Subura is a hard place, its alleys cramped, its air thick with smoke and sewage, its people scrabbling for every coin. Lucius's bakery is his life, but it's also his chain, tying him to endless labor, to debts that grow like weeds. Today's loss, a customer's deceit, a stolen crust, stings like a fresh burn. But here, in the tepidarium, the heat softens his edges. He leans back, his hands resting on his knees, the flour in his skin flaking away in the humid air. The warmth seeps into his shoulders, easing the knots from hours at the oven. He closes his eyes, and for the first time today, he feels his own breath, steady and deep. The tepidarium is working its magic, pulling him from the grind of survival into a moment of care, of presence. Now let's meet Calpurnia, the matron, who sits nearby, her linen cloth draped elegantly despite the simplicity of the setting. Her auburn hair is pinned in a loose braid, strands clinging to her neck in the humid air. She's deep in thought, her fingers tracing the edge of her vial of oil, her mind on her daughter, now promised to a merchant's son. The match is good, security for her girl, a step up for the family. But it means letting go, a loss that cuts deeper than Calpurnia expected. The tepidarium is her refuge, a place to process, to feel without the eyes of her household on her. She sits straight, her posture a habit of dignity, but her face softens in the warmth. The air feels like a mother's embrace, gentle but firm, reminding her that she, too, deserves care. She glances at the women beside her, their voices low, their laughter a soft counterpoint to her thoughts. The tepidarium offers this, a space to be alone, yet not lonely, to find clarity in the quiet. And then there's Tiro, the slave, standing near a column, his scarred back hidden by the dim light. He's cautious, his eyes scanning the room, a habit born of survival. The baths are his stolen hour, paid for with a coin he shouldn't have, a risk that could earn him lashes. But the tepidarium feels like a miracle. The warmth touches his skin, unmarred by pain for once, and he lets himself lean against the column, its marble cool against his shoulder. He watches Lucius, Calpurnia, the others, marveling at their ease, their right to be here. For Tiro, the tepidarium is freedom, a fleeting moment where his body is his own, where the heat doesn't burn, but heals. He clutches his oil vial, its weight a reminder that he too can partake in this ritual, can care for himself, if only for an hour. The tepidarium prepares you for the heart of the ritual, but it's not the destination. You rise, feeling lighter, your muscles soft, your mind quieter. You move toward another curtain, its linen heavier with steam, and step into the caldarium, the hot room, where the dance of heat reaches its peak. The air hits you like a wave, thick and liquid, scented with lavender and rosemary from oils dripped into the steaming pools. The heat is intense, almost a living thing, curling around your shoulders, sinking into your chest. The caldarium is a cathedral of steam, its domed ceiling glistening with condensation, droplets falling like rain. Mosaics of Neptune and Amphorae gleam through the haze, their colours softened as if under water. The floor burns your feet at first, the hippocaust fiercer here, but you adjust, stepping toward a hot pool that shimmers in the lamplight. You sink into the pool, the water scalding your toes, then your calves, then your chest as you lower yourself. It's painful for a moment, a shock that steals your breath, but then your body surrenders, and the heat becomes a cradle, soothing every ache, melting every tension. Your heart slows, your breath deepens, filling your lungs with steam. This is self-care, Roman style, not a fleeting indulgence, but a necessity, a ritual as vital as prayer. The Romans believed the body was a vessel, and to neglect it was to neglect the mind, the soul, the gods themselves. The caldarium is their altar, a place of purification, where heat strips away not just dirt, but doubt, fear, sorrow. You uncork your vial of olive oil, the golden stream catching the light as you pour it into your palm. The scent is earthy, grounding, a reminder of the groves outside Rome where workers press olives under stone. You rub the oil into your skin, starting with your arms, feeling the slickness, the warmth amplifying its glide. Your skin shines, reflecting the lamp's glow, as you work the oil into your chest, your legs, your shoulders. The act is deliberate, meditative, a ritual within a ritual. You're not just preparing to clean, you're honoring your body, marking it as sacred, preparing it for the god's gaze. Now you take the strigil, its metal cool against your palm despite the heat. You start with your arm, pressing the curved edge against your skin, scraping slowly, deliberately. The oil, mixed with sweat and dust, peels away in dark curls, revealing skin that feels new, alive. The sound is faint, a soft scrape, like a whisper, lost in the caldarium's hum. But it anchors you. You move to your chest, your legs, each stroke a shedding, not just of grime, but of the day's weight. For Lucius, it's the sting of cheated coins, the fear of empty shelves. For Calpurnia, it's the ache of her daughter's leaving, the uncertainty of her family's future. For Tiro, it's the memory of the whip, the shame of servitude. The strigil is a tool of transformation, turning heat into renewal, pain into peace. Let's explore the caldarium's history, because it's more than a room. It's a testament to Rome's ambition. The baths of Trajan, built in 109 CE, were a masterpiece of engineering, their caldarium a pinnacle of design. The dome above you, inspired by earlier baths like Nero's, is a marvel, its weight distributed through arches that seem to defy gravity. The hot pools are fed by aqueducts, their water heated in vast bronze boilers stoked by slaves day and night. The hypocaust here is fiercer, its channels narrower to concentrate the heat, its tiles thicker to withstand the scalding air. The Romans didn't just build baths, they crafted experiences using heat, steam, and light to elevate the mundane to the divine. The caldarium is their triumph, a place where technology and spirituality meet, where the body is cleansed and the soul is polished. The caldarium is also a social space, though quieter than the apoditerium. You hear soft voices through the steam, a merchant negotiating a deal, his tone hushed to match the room's reverence. A woman hums a lullaby, her voice blending with the drip of condensation. A soldier, his arm scarred from a Parthian spear, soaks silently, his eyes distant but calm. The caldarium blurs Rome's hierarchies further. Here, the merchant's wealth, the woman's status, the soldier's strength mean little. The heat equalizes, stripping everyone to their essence, uniting them in the ritual of care. You overhear a snippet of philosophy, a stoic debating the nature of suffering with a skeptic, their voices calm as if the heat has burned away their edges. The caldarium fosters this, not debate, but connection, a shared surrender to the ritual's rhythm. Let's follow Lucius again. The caldarium is his salvation. The heat wraps around his aching shoulders, easing the knots from years at the oven. He pours oil, rubs it in, feeling his skin soften, his calluses loosen. The strigil glides over his arm, scraping away the flour, the sweat, the memory of today's losses. He works slowly, each stroke a meditation, a prayer for better days. The steam fills his lungs and he feels something shift, a clarity, a resolve. The Subura will still be there, with its debts and rats, but Lucius feels stronger, ready to face it. The Caldarium has burned away his despair, leaving only his will, his heart, his hands. Calpurnia, too, finds solace here. She sits by the pool, her feet dangling in the scalding water, her oil vial empty, her skin gleaming. The strigil is unfamiliar. She's used to slaves doing this at home, but she learns, scraping her arm, feeling the grime peel away. The heat softens her grief, her worry for her daughter. She thinks of her own mother, who bathed in these same thermi years ago, and feels a thread of strength. The Caldarium is her mirror, reflecting her resilience, her love, her capacity to let go. She hums softly, a tune from her childhood, and the steam carries it, a quiet offering to the gods. Tiro, the slave, stands in the pool, the water up to his waist, his scars hidden by the steam. The heat is a shock, but it's a kind one, unlike the whip's bite. He rubs oil into his skin, hesitant at first, then bolder, claiming his body as his own. The strigil trembles in his hand. He's never used one, but he mimics the others, scraping his arm, watching the dirt curl away. The act feels forbidden, a luxury he doesn't deserve, but the Caldarium insists. You are here, you are human, you are enough. Tiro's breath catches, not from the heat, but from a flicker of hope, a dream of a life beyond chains. The Caldarium gives him this, a moment to imagine, to care, to be free. The Caldarium is the heart of the ritual, but it's not the end. The heat has purified you, stripped you bare, but the dance requires balance. You rise from the pool, your skin flushed, your mind clear, the strigil heavy with the day's grime. You step toward another curtain, the steam parting like a veil, ready for the frigidarium, where cold will seal what heat has opened. But that's for later, another chapter. For now you carry the Caldarium's warmth, its clarity, its promise. The dance of heat has done its work, transforming you, not into someone new, but into yourself, clean, calm, alive. You push through the steam-laden curtain, its damp linen grazing your skin like a whispered farewell to the Caldarium's searing embrace, and step into the frigidarium, the cold room of the baths of Trajan. The transition is a jolt, as if you've plunged into a mountain stream, fed by winter's snow. The air bites your flushed, oil-slicked skin, crisp and sharp, carrying the faint mineral tang of water and the vastness of the open sky above. The frigidarium is a cathedral of marble and moonlight. Its ceiling not a dome, but a great circular opening to the heavens, where stars glitter against the indigo of dusk in 150 CE. Marble columns, carved with twining vines and laurel leaves, rise like silent guardians, framing a central pool that shimmers under the celestial glow. The mosaic floor, a seascape of sapphire waves, pearlfish, and coral branches, feels icy beneath your bare feet, a stark rebuke to the Caldarium's scalding tiles. Your breath catches, curling in the cool air like a wisp of steam, as the heat lingering in your bones clashes with the chill. This is the frigidarium, the heart of balance in the Roman bath ritual, where cold seals the purification begun by heat, where the body awakens and the soul sharpens. Here, in this space of contrast and clarity, the dance of self-care finds its equilibrium, weaving you into a fleeting community bound by water, ritual, and slowness. You stand at the pool's edge, your linen cloth sodden from the Caldarium's steam, clinging to your thighs like a second skin. Your body glistens with traces of olive oil, the strigil in your hand cool from the air, its curved edge heavy with the grime it scraped away. The water before you is crystal clear, fed by the Aqua Traiana, one of Rome's mighty aqueducts, its surface rippling faintly in the evening breeze that slips through the open roof. You're not alone. The frigidarium hums with life. Bathers plunge into the pool with gasps and laughter, their voices echoing off the marble like bells in a temple. A man surfaces, shaking water from his hair, grinning at a friend who mocks, his flinch. Two women sit on a marble bench, their cloths knotted tightly, their faces flushed from the cold, their conversation a soft murmur beneath the splash of water. A child, no older than 10, darts between columns, trailing a damp towel, his giggles bright as the stars above. The frigidarium is vibrant, not with the apoditerium's chaotic energy or the caldarium's meditative hush, but with a clarity that binds bathers in a shared moment of awakening, a community forged in the shock of cold and the rhythm of ritual. Let's linger in the frigidarium, to feel its fierce embrace, to taste its clarity. You carry the warmth of the tepidarium's gentle cradle and the caldarium's purifying fire, your muscles softened, your mind quieted by the heat's alchemy. Perhaps you're Lucius, the baker from the Subura, your hands rough with flour, your heart lighter after shedding the day's losses in the steam, or Calpurnia, the matron, your thoughts on your daughter's betrothal now a resolved ache, clarity found in the caldarium's heat, or Tiro, the slave, your scarred back hidden by the dim light, this hour in the thermi, a stolen taste of dignity. Whoever you are, the frigidarium demands your presence, pulling you from the heat's dream into a moment so sharp it feels like waking from sleep. You grip your strigil, its metal cold against your palm, the empty oil vial tucked into your cloth. You're ready for the cold, for the ritual's next act. A plunge that will close your pores, jolt your senses, and seal the cleansing you've begun. You step into the pool, the water biting your toes like a swarm of tiny teeth. Then your ankles, then your thighs as you descend the shallow marble steps. The cold is brutal, a shock that steals your breath, making your skin prickle as if lashed by a north wind. Your chest tightens, your heart races, but you press forward, sinking until the water laps at your shoulders. The chill is fierce, a living thing that wraps around you, but it's also alive, electric, pulling you into the present with a clarity that heat could never match. You float, your breath steadying, your body slowly adjusting to the cold. The stars above burn brighter, their light fractured in the pool's ripples. The columns stand sharper, their vine carvings etched in moonlight. The mosaics beneath your feet, a dolphin leaping, a crab scuttling, feel vivid, as if you've plunged into the sea itself. This is slowness in its purest form, not the soft drift of warmth, not the meditative scrape of the strigil, but a vivid, unyielding presence. You're not thinking of Rome's relentless taxes, the Subura's scurrying rats, or the whip's cruel sting. You're here, in this water, in this moment, feeling the cold bite, the air sting, the weight of your own body alive and awake. Let's follow Lucius, the baker, as he navigates the frigidarium's challenge. He stands at the pool's edge, his broad frame tense, his flour-dusted hands clenched as he eyes the water. The Subura has taught him to brace for hardship, clipped coins, stolen crusts, debts that grow like weeds. But the caldarium softened his edges, and now the frigidarium dares him to let go. He steps in, gasping as the cold hits, his knees buckling slightly. The shock is raw, but then he laughs, a rough, surprised bark that echoes off the marble. He ducks under, surfacing with a shake of his head, water streaming down his face, washing away the last traces of flour, of worry. Lucius feels awake, not just in body, but in spirit, as if the cold has burned away the fog of his daily grind. He climbs out, his skin tingling, his breath visible in the air, and sits on a marble bench, its surface smoothed by centuries of bathers. He watches others plunge, Their gasps and laughter a chorus of resilience, and feels a flicker of pride. The frigidarium is his mirror, reflecting a man who's more than his oven's heat, more than his debts. A man who can face the cold and laugh. Calpurnia, the matron, approaches the pool with measured grace, her auburn braid loosened by the caldarium steam, her linen cloth knotted tightly around her waist. She's no stranger to the frigidarium. Her mother brought her here as a child, teaching her the ritual's rhythm, the balance of heat and cold. But today, the plunge feels weightier. Her daughter's betrothal, now finalized, is a knot of pride and sorrow, a decision that secures the family's future, but severs a bond. Calpurnia steps into the water slowly, her breath hitching as the cold wraps around her calves. But she doesn't flinch. She sinks deeper, the chill stealing her warmth, sharpening her thoughts. She floats, her eyes fixed on the stars, feeling the cold seal her resolve, her love, her strength. The frigidarium is her anchor, grounding her in her capacity to endure, to let go while holding fast to what matters. She emerges, shivering but calm, her skin prickling, and joins two women on a bench, their conversation pulling her into their circle. Their laughter, their shared glances, remind her she's not alone, that the baths are as much about community as solitude. Tiro, the slave, lingers at the pool's edge, his scarred back hidden by the shadows, his eyes wary as he watches the others. The cold is a risk. His master's villa offers no warmth, and illness could mean punishment or worse. But the frigidarium calls to him, a chance to feel something beyond the whip's bite. He steps in, the water a shock that makes him gasp, his hands trembling as he grips the pool's edge. But he pushes through, sinking to his chest, the cold fierce but kind, waking every nerve, sharpening his senses. For a moment, Tiro is not a slave, not a tool. He's a man, alive, free under the stars, his body his own in this icy embrace. He emerges, his skin prickling, his heart racing, and leans against a column, its marble cool against his shoulder. He watches Lucius laugh. Calpurnia join the women, the child dart between columns, and feels a flicker of belonging, a dream of a world where he's more than his chains. The frigidarium gives him this, a moment of clarity, of hope, sealed by the cold's fierce kiss. Let's weave in new voices to enrich the frigidarium's tapestry, to deepen its sense of community. Meet Valeria, a widow in her 50s, who runs a tavern near the Forum Boreum. Her hands are rough from pouring wine and scrubbing tables, her face lined with laughter and loss. Her husband fell in a legionary campaign, leaving her to raise their son, now a soldier in Dacia. Valeria comes to the baths to escape the tavern's clamour, to find peace in the ritual's rhythm. She plunges into the pool with a whoop, startling a nearby bather, then surfaces laughing, her voice echoing like a bell. The cold wakes her, a jolt that reminds her of her resilience, her joy in a life hard won. She climbs out, her cloth dripping, and joins a group of women on a bench, sharing a tale of a drunken poet who proposed to her last week. His verses slurred but earnest. Their laughter rises, a counterpoint to the pool's splash, and Valeria feels whole. Not just a widow or tavern keeper, but a woman, vibrant and alive. The frigidarium is her stage, where her story matters, where the cold sharpens her spirit. Then there's Marcus, a retired soldier, 40 years old, his left arm scarred from a Parthian spear, his limp a legacy of battles in the east. He guards a merchant's warehouse now, a quieter life, but his body aches with memories of war. The baths are his refuge, a place to ease his scars, to reclaim his strength. Marcus steps into the pool slowly, his scars tightening in the cold, his teeth gritted against the shock, but he sinks in. The water familiar, like the discipline of a legion's march, a test he knows he can pass. He floats, his eyes on the stars, thinking of comrades lost, of a life he's learning to live without the clash of swords. The frigidarium is his crucible, burning away regret, leaving gratitude for this moment, this breath. He emerges, his limp less pronounced, his skin tingling, and nods to a young man nearby, a silent acknowledgement of shared survival. The frigidarium binds him to others, not as a soldier, but as a man, part of Rome's breathing whole. Now, meet Aelius, a poet in his late 20s, his ink-stained fingers clutching a wax tablet even in the baths. He's a dreamer. His verse is known in Rome's taverns, but not its palaces. His ambition a fire that both drives and consumes him. Aelius comes to the frigidarium to clear his mind, to find words that elude him in the city's noise. He plunges into the pool, the cold a shock that makes him curse under his breath, then laugh, his voice sharp in the quiet. The water sharpens his thoughts, the stars above a canvas for his next ode. He emerges, shivering, and sits on a bench, scratching lines into his tablet. Words of water, of cold, of Rome's eternal pulse. A woman nearby, amused, asks what he's writing, and Aelius recites a line, his voice soft but proud. The frigidarium is his muse, a space where poetry flows as freely as water, where he's not just a struggling poet, but a voice in the city's chorus. And there's Sabina, a freedwoman in her 30s, once a slave in a senator's household, now a seamstress, with a small shop in the Vicus Tuscus. Her hands are nimble, her eyes sharp, her freedom hard-earned through years of toil. Sabina comes to the baths to celebrate her new life, to feel the ritual's embrace as a free woman. She steps into the pool cautiously, the cold a shock she meets with a quiet resolve. The water wakes her, reminding her of the Tiber's current, when she was baptized into freedom, a moment of rebirth. She floats, her scars, fainter than Tiro's but no less real, hidden by the water, her heart light with possibility. She emerges, her cloth dripping, and joins Valeria's group, sharing a shy smile, a story of a client who paid double for a rush order. The frigidarium is her sanctuary, where her freedom feels real, where she's not just a seamstress, but a woman with a future woven into the bath's community. Finally, let's meet Gaius, a youth of 16, a messenger who runs errands across Rome. His legs lean from sprinting through the forum. He's here with friends, their laughter loud, their energy a spark in the frigidarium's calm. Gaius plunges into the pool with a shout, splashing Marcus, who grumbles but smiles. The cold is a game to Gaius, a challenge he meets with bravado, ducking under to tug a friend's ankle. He surfaces, grinning, his hair plastered to his face, his youth a bright flame in the moonlight. The frigidarium is his playground, where he's not just a messenger, but a boy, free to laugh, to play, to be. He climbs out, shivering, and joins his friends, their chatter about chariot races filling the air. The frigidarium gives him this, a moment to be young, to forge bonds that will carry him through Rome's trials. The frigidarium is more than a cold plunge. It's a ritual of balance, a testament to the Roman belief that self-care is not just softness, but strength, not just heat but cold, not just solitude, but community. The open roof, a circle of sky framed by marble, is a deliberate choice, connecting bathers to the cosmos, reminding them that their bodies are part of a greater whole. The columns, their carvings worn by centuries of steam and touch, stand as witnesses to Rome's ambition, its desire to elevate even the humblest act to the divine. The mosaics beneath your feet, fish darting, waves curling, are a love letter to the sea, to water as life, as renewal, as the empire's lifeblood. You trace a fish with your toe, feeling the tile's slight unevenness. Their craftsmanship a reminder of the artisans who shaped this sanctuary. Their names lost, but their work eternal. Let's pause to explore the Frigidarium's history, its place in Rome's grand design. The baths of Trajan, opened in 109 CE, were a gift from an emperor who conquered Dacia, their marble halls funded by war's spoils. The Frigidarium, with its open roof and vast pool, was a masterpiece of engineering and symbolism, inspired by earlier baths like those of Agrippa, but grander, more public. The Aqua Traiana, built by Trajan himself, feeds this pool, its water channeled through miles of arches, regulated by valves and sluices that hum with precision. You imagine the aqueducts stretching across the Campagna, their stone weathered, but unyielding, carrying water from springs near Lake Bracciano to Rome's heart. The engineers who designed them, their scrolls dense with calculations, were Rome's unsung heroes, their work as vital as the legions. The Frigidarium's cold water is their legacy, a gift that wakes, that binds, that renews. By 150 CE, Rome boasted hundreds of baths, from neighborhood balnei to colossi like Trajan's, serving millions who saw bathing as a rite, a ritual as essential as bread or prayer. The Frigidarium is also a social crucible, where Rome's hierarchies blur, if only for a moment. You overhear Lucius chatting with Marcus, the baker and soldier finding common ground in tales of hard days. Calpurnia shares a smile with Valeria, their conversation weaving between family and trade, a bond forged in the cold. Tiro watches silently, his presence unnoticed, but felt, a quiet claim to this space. Aelius recites a verse to Sabina, her laughter encouraging him, a fleeting connection between poet and seamstress. Gaius and his friends splash a senator, who grumbles but joins their game, his toga's weight forgotten. The Frigidarium fosters this, not equality, for Rome's ranks endure, but a shared humanity, a moment where status softens, where the ritual unites. You feel it standing in the pool, the cold binding you to these strangers, their stories a chorus of Rome's beating heart. You emerge from the pool, shivering but exhilarated, your skin tingling, your mind as clear as the water you've left behind. An attendant hands you a coarse towel, its texture rough but grounding, and you dry off, the cold still prickling your skin. The Frigidarium has sealed your cleansing, but the ritual is far from over. You move toward the palaestra, the exercise courtyard, where the air is cooler, scented with cypress and dust kicked up by moving feet. The palaestra is an open space, surrounded by porticos where bathers wrestle, throw discuses, or jog in loose tunics. Torches flicker in their sconces, casting long shadows across the sand-strewn ground. You see Lucius, his baker's strength, evident as he tosses a leather ball in a game of trigona, a handball-like sport, his laughter echoing off the columns. Calpurnia watches from a bench, clapping as Sabina outruns a man, her seamstress's agility surprising. Tiro, hesitant at first, joins a group passing a ball, his movements cautious but growing bolder, his smile rare but real. Valeria wrestles playfully with a friend, her tavern keeper's vigor undimmed, her laughter a bright counterpoint to the night's quiet. Marcus jogs slowly, his limp fading in the rhythm of movement, his breath steady. Aelius, the poet, leans against a portico, watching, his tablet forgotten as he soaks in the energy. Gaius and his friends race, their shouts filling the air, their youth a spark that lights the courtyard. You join the game, tossing the trigona ball, its leather worn, but firm, its weight satisfying in your hands. The movement is deliberate, a ritual of care that honors your body's strength, its joy, its place in the world. The palaestra is a celebration, not of competition, but of life, of connection, of the gods who gave you muscles and breath. The Romans didn't exercise for vanity. They moved for the therme, for community, for the divine spark within. The courtyard blurs Rome's hierarchies further. Here, a slave's throw might outshine a senator's, a widow's speed might best a soldier's. But the equality is fleeting, a moment of sweat shared in moments of sweat before status returns. You play until your breath is short, your muscles warm, your mind alive with laughter. The palestra is slowness in motion, a reminder that self-care is not just stillness, but balance. Not just cleansing, but strength. Not just the body, but the soul's joy in its vessel. Let's linger in the palestra to explore its place in Roman life. The baths of Trajan's palestra were modelled on Greek gymnasia, where exercise was philosophy as much as physicality. But Rome made them more inclusive, more communal. The trigona, with its triangular play and rapid passes, was a favourite game, requiring agility and teamwork, a sport that echoed the legion's discipline, but softened it with play. Wrestling, discus throwing, and running were common too, each a ritual of strength, a way to honour Mars, Apollo, or Hercules. The palaestra's porticos, their columns painted red and gold, were spaces for spectators, philosophers, or poets like Aelius, who might debate stoicism or recite odes between throws. You imagine the architects who designed this courtyard, their plans balancing function and beauty, their work a gift to Rome's weary. The palestra is their legacy, a space where the body moves, the heart opens, and the community breathes. From the palestra, you move to the unctuarium, a small chamber fragrant with myrrh, rose, and cedarwood, its air warm after the courtyard's coolness. An attendant, his hands slick with oil, massages your shoulders, kneading out knots you didn't know you carried. The oil is warm, scented, sinking into your skin like a blessing, its sheen catching the flicker of oil lamps. Lucius sighs as his oven-tight muscles loosen, the scent of cedar grounding him. Calpurnia closes her eyes, the rose oil reminding her of her mother's garden, her heart softening. Tiro flinches at first, unused to touch that doesn't hurt, then relaxes, the myrrh a balm for his scars. Valeria jokes with the attendant, her laughter easing the room's quiet, her tavern keeper's warmth infectious. Marcus grunts as his scarred arm is massaged, the pain fading into warmth, his body grateful. Aelius hums a tune, the oil's scent inspiring a new verse, his poet's soul stirred. Sabina breathes deeply, the oil a luxury she once served but now claims, her freedom tangible. Gaius fidgets, unused to stillness. But the oil calms him, his youth tempered by the ritual's close. The unctuarium is the ritual's seal, a final act of care that anoints you, preparing you to re-enter Rome, not as you were, but as you could be, whole, calm, alive. The Romans saw this anointing as sacred, a nod to Venus, to health, to the gods who guard the body's temple. The room's walls, painted with scenes of orchards and fountains, are a reminder of nature's bounty, of the earth that yields the oils, the herbs, the care. You imagine the traders who brought myrrh from Arabia, rose from Persia, cedar from Lebanon, their caravans weaving Rome's empire into this small act. The unctuarium is their legacy, a space where the world's riches meet the body's simplicity, where slowness is a prayer, where care is divine. Finally, you wander into the gardens, the Thermes' quiet heart, where the ritual settles into reflection. The air is cool, scented with laurel, jasmine, and the faint musk of earth after a day's heat. Fountains murmur, their water catching the torchlight, blending with the rustle of cypress trees swaying in the breeze. You sit on a stone bench, its surface cool against your thighs, a scroll of Horace in your hand, though you barely read it. The words blur, your mind too quiet to focus. Lucius sips watered wine from a clay cup, watching a child chase a butterfly, its wings a flicker of gold. Calpurnia braids jasmine into her hair, her thoughts on her daughter, now peaceful, her heart full. Tiro lies on the grass, staring at the stars, dreaming of a freedom he can almost taste, his scars forgotten. Valeria shares a loaf with her friends, their laughter soft, their stories weaving a tapestry of Rome's nights. Marcus leans against a fountain, his limp gone, his heart open, his wars a distant echo. Aelius scratches a verse into his tablet, the gardens calm his muse. Sabina picks a laurel leaf, tucking it into her cloth, a token of her new life. Gaius and his friends sprawl on the grass, their chatter fading into yawns, their youth spent but content. The gardens are where slowness becomes memory, where the rituals lessons, balance, community, care, settle into your bones. The Romans built these spaces as oases, their fountains fed by the same aqueducts, their plants tended by slaves whose names are lost. You imagine the gardeners, their hands stained with soil, their work a quiet rebellion against Rome's stone and steel. The gardens are their legacy, a space where time slows, where stories linger, where the Thermae's magic endures. The Frigidarium, and beyond, the Palaestra, Unctuarium, gardens, are the ritual's completion, a symphony of cold and community, motion and rest, solitude and connection. You carry their clarity, their joy, their stillness, ready to face Rome's relentless streets, not as a baker, matron or slave, but as yourself, cleansed, whole, alive. You step away from the garden's cool embrace, where the murmur of fountains and the delicate scent of jasmine still linger in your senses, and approach a low doorway framed in terracotta tiles, their edges worn smooth by countless hands. The air shifts as you near, growing warmer, heavier, laced with the sharp, medicinal bite of eucalyptus and the soothing undertone of mint. You push through a thick linen curtain, its fibers damp and warm, clinging briefly to your skin like a whispered promise, and enter the sudatorium, the sweat room of the baths of Trajan. The chamber is small, an intimate vaulted cocoon that feels like stepping into the heart of a living thing. The walls, veined marble in soft greens and greys, glisten with condensation, their surfaces slick under the dim, flickering glow of a single bronze lamp suspended from the ceiling. The floor, warmed by the relentless hypocaust system, burns faintly beneath your bare feet. Its mosaic, a hypnotic spiral of black and white tiles, drawing your gaze inward, guiding your steps to a wooden bench smoothed by the weight of countless bathers before you. The air is thick, almost tangible, each breath filling your lungs with warmth, with the heady scent of herbs dropped onto hot stones somewhere unseen, their steam rising in curling clouds. This is the sudatorium, a sanctuary of purging, where sweat carries away the body's toxins and the mind's burdens, where the ritual of self-care deepens into a quiet, introspective surrender to the heat's unrelenting truth. You settle onto the bench, its cedar wood warm and slightly tacky from the humidity, your linen cloth clinging to your thighs, still damp from the frigidarium's icy plunge. The heat here is different, not the caldarium's fierce dry fire that scalds the skin, but a softer, wetter warmth that seeps into every pore, coaxing beads of sweat to form on your forehead, your chest, your arms. Your strigil rests beside you, its metal cool despite the heat, its curved edge heavy with the memory of the caldarium's work, now done. The empty oil vial, tucked into the fold of your cloth, is a small weight against your hip, a reminder of the ritual's earlier steps. The sudatorium is quiet, almost reverent, save for the rhythmic hiss of steam rising from a hidden brazier in the corner, and the faint, irregular drip of condensation falling from the vaulted ceiling, each drop a soft plink against the mosaic floor. Around you, a handful of bathers share this intimate space, their forms softened by the haze, their movements slow, deliberate. Lucius, the baker, leans forward, his elbows on his knees, his broad frame glistening with sweat. Calpurnia, the matron, sits upright, her braid unravelling in the humidity, her eyes closed as if in prayer. Tiro, the slave, stands near the wall, his scarred back hidden by the steam, his silhouette tense but gradually softening. Valeria, the widow, sits cross-legged, her face flushed, a faint smile playing on her lips. Marcus, the soldier, leans against a wall, his scarred arm relaxed. Aelius, the poet, clutches his wax tablet, its edges softened by the heat. Sabina, the freedwoman, breathes deeply, her hands folded in her lap. Gaius, the youth, fidgets at first, then stills, his restlessness tamed by the room's quiet. The Sudatorium is a place of solitude within community, where voices are hushed, where the ritual strips away pretense, revealing the raw, unadorned self beneath Rome's relentless masks. Let's linger in the Sudatorium, to feel its weight, to breathe, its clarity, to let its heat unravel the threads of your day. You carry the ritual's journey through the baths of Trajan, the apoditerium's shedding of Rome's dust and rolls, the tepidarium's gentle warming, the caldarium's purifying fire, the frigidarium's shocking cold, the palaestra's joyful motion, the unctuarium's anointing touch, the garden's reflective peace. Now, in the Sudatorium, the ritual turns inward, demanding introspection, pulling sweat from your body and truths from your mind. Perhaps you're Lucius, your hands once dusted with flour, now clean but rough, your heart steadied by the frigidarium's jolt, yet still heavy with the Subura's debts, the stolen crust, the clipped coins, or Calpurnia, your thoughts on your daughter's betrothal now calm, but seeking a deeper understanding of your own path as a mother, a wife, a woman in Rome's rigid world. Or Tyro, your scarred back a map of pain, this stolen hour in the Thermae, a fragile freedom you cling to, a moment to dream beyond your chains. Whoever you are, the Sudatorium is a confessional, its heat a quiet inquisitor, its silence a space where you face yourself without the city's noise to drown your thoughts. The Sudatorium's heat is a marvel of Roman engineering, a refined cousin to the Caldarium's grandeur, designed for intimacy and intensity. Beneath the floor, the Hippocaust system hums, its channels narrower here to concentrate the heat, its terracotta tiles thin to radiate warmth into every corner. A bronze brazier in the corner, tended by an unseen slave, holds glowing stones where an attendant drips water laced with eucalyptus, mint, and chamomile, sending clouds of scented steam billowing through the chamber. The walls, built with hollow bricks to trap and circulate heat, are slick with condensation, their marble veined like the skin of a living creature, pulsing with the Thermae's lifeblood. You imagine the workers who maintain this system, their faces blackened with soot, their hands blistered from shoveling wood into the furnaces below, their labor invisible yet essential to this sanctuary. The Sudatorium's design, borrowed from Greek vapor baths but perfected in Rome's Grand Thermae, is a testament to the empire's ambition, not just to conquer lands, but to conquer the body, to craft spaces where care becomes a sacred act. The steam curls around your shoulders, fills your lungs with its herbal bite, makes your skin glisten like polished bronze. This is self-care as discipline, a ritual that demands you sit, you breathe, you let the heat do its work, purging not just toxins, but the weight of Rome itself. Let's follow Lucius, the baker, whose broad frame fills the bench, his elbows on his knees, his hands clasped as if holding the Subura's troubles in his palms. The steam softens his flour-dusted edges, the sweat beading on his forehead, dripping onto the mosaic spiral as if the tiles draw his worries downward into the earth. The Subura is a relentless place, its alleys cramped with vendors and thieves, its air thick with smoke and sewage, its people scrabbling for every coin. Lucius's bakery is his life, but also his chain, tying him to endless labour, to debts that grow like weeds, to rats that steal his bread, and customers who pay with clipped coins. In the sudatorium, these burdens feel distant, the heat melting, his anger, his fear, his exhaustion. He wipes sweat from his brow, watching it mingle with the condensation on the bench, and thinks of his wife, her quiet strength, her hands kneading dough beside him at dawn. The sudatorium is his confessional, a place to face his failures without judgment, to admit he's tired, that the Subra's grind might break him. But the steam also carries a resolve, a memory of why he fights, for his family, for the warm loaves that feed his neighbours, for a life carved from Rome's hard stone. Lucius breathes deeply, the eucalyptus sharp in his lungs, and feels a flicker of hope, a determination to rise tomorrow, to knead with purpose, to face the tax collector's sneer with grit. The sudatorium purges his despair, leaving a man who can still stand, still bake, still dream. Calpurnia, the matron, sits with her back straight, her auburn braid unravelling in the humidity, strands clinging to her neck like delicate vines. Her eyes are closed, her breath slow, as if she's praying to Hygeia, goddess of health, whose statue watched over the apoditerium. The sudatorium's silence lets her hear her own thoughts, unclouded by her household's demands, her husband's trade deals, her son's studies, her daughter's betrothal. That betrothal, once a knot of pride and sorrow, now feels like a bridge to the future, a step her girl will take with strength Calpurnia helped forge. In the steam, she sees her daughter's face, her laughter, her quick wit, and the sudatorium carries away the last of her grief, leaving gratitude for a love that endures beyond her home's walls. But the heat also turns her inward to her own path, a woman in her late 30s, respectable but not wealthy, whose life has been shaped by duty, by Rome's expectations. The sudatorium is her mirror, reflecting not just a mother, but a woman, who's yearned for more, perhaps to travel, to learn, to be more than the Aventine's quiet matron. She thinks of her own mother, who bathed in these thermi decades ago, and feels a thread of courage, a resolve to seek her own joy. However small, the steam stings her eyes, but she smiles, the mint clearing her mind, her heart lighter. The sudatorium is her sanctuary, a place to be whole, to claim herself amid Rome's roles. Tiro, the slave, stands near the wall, his scarred back hidden by the steam's haze, his body tense but gradually softening as the heat seeps into his bones. The sudatorium is a risk. Lingering too long could weaken him for his master's tasks, could invite illness his cold villa can't cure. But it's also a refuge, a space where he's not a tool but a man, where his body matters. The steam stings his scars at first, a sharp reminder of the whip's bite, but then it soothes, a kindness he's rarely known. Tiro's breath catches, not from the heat, but from a memory the sudatorium's quiet lets him hold. A brother, sold years, ago at a market in Ostia, his face fading but his laugh still clear. In the steam, Tiro lets himself grieve, the sweat mingling with tears he dares not shed outside these walls. The sudatorium purges his shame, his fear, leaving a flicker of defiance, a dream of freedom he barely dares to name. He thinks of the poet Aelius reciting in the frigidarium and imagines a life where he too could speak, could be heard. The heat wraps around him, a rare embrace, and Tiro stands straighter, his breath steady, his heart alive. The sudatorium is his rebellion, a moment to claim his humanity, to hope against Rome's chains. Valeria, the widow, sits cross-legged on the bench, her tavern-keeper's vigour subdued but not extinguished, her face flushed with heat, a faint smile playing on her lips. The sudatorium's warmth reminds her of her tavern's kitchen, where she stirs pots and pours wine for Rome's weary. But here, she's not serving. She's served by the ritual's quiet care. She wipes sweat from her face, laughing softly at the memory of a drunken poet's proposal last week. His slurred verses more comic than romantic. The sudatorium is her hearth, warming her spirit, purging the loneliness that creeps in when her tavern empties at night. Valeria thinks of her son, a soldier in Dacia, his letters rare but cherished, and the steam carries away her worry, leaving pride for his courage, for her own. She's 50, her hands rough from years of labor, her face lined with laughter and loss, but in the sudatorium, she feels ageless, her resilience a fire the heat stokes. She breathes deeply, the chamomile soothing her, and resolves to dance at her tavern tonight, to share her joy with her patrons. The sudatorium is her renewal, a place to be more than a widow, to claim her life's warmth. Marcus, the retired soldier, leans against the wall, his scarred arm relaxed, the steam easing the aches that linger from battles in the east. His limp, a legacy of a Parthian spear, feels distant here, the heat softening his war-worn body. The sudatorium is his retreat, a place to let go of the clashing swords, the screams of comrades, the weight of a life defined by violence. He thinks of a friend lost in Dacia, a man who loved to sing, and the steam lets him hold that memory without pain. Marcus, at 40, guards a merchant's warehouse now, a quieter life, but the sudatorium reminds him he's more than his scars, more than his limp. The heat purges his regret, leaving gratitude for the baths, for Rome, for the breath in his lungs. He wipes sweat from his brow, the eucalyptus sharp, and feels ready to face the night's watch. His heart steady. The sudatorium is his peace, a space where wars fade, where he's whole. Elias, the poet, sits with his wax tablet, its edges softened by the steam, his ink-stained fingers tracing new verses. The sudatorium's quiet is his muse, the heat loosening, his thoughts letting words flow like the sweat on his skin. He's 28, his poems known in Rome's taverns but not its palaces, his ambition a fire that drives him but threatens to burn. In the steam, he faces his fear of fading into obscurity, of never matching Virgil's grace. But the sudatorium purges his doubt, leaving clarity. He scratches a line about water, about heat, about Rome's eternal pulse, and feels a spark of pride. The sudatorium is his canvas, a place where his voice matters, where he's not just a dreamer but a poet, part of the city's song. Sabina, the freedwoman, sits with her hands folded, her breath deep, the mint clearing her mind. Once a slave in a senator's household, now a seamstress in the Vicus Tuscus, her freedom is hard won, her hands nimble but scarred from years of toil. The sudatorium is her celebration, a space where she feels her freedom in every breath, every drop of sweat. She thinks of a client who paid double for a rush order, a small victory that feels vast in the steam's quiet. The sudatorium purges her fear of losing her shop, of slipping back into servitude, leaving a resolve to sew with care, to build a life thread by thread. Sabina's heart lifts, the chamomile a balm, and she feels ready to face Rome's markets, her freedom tangible. The sudatorium is her triumph, a place where she's not just a seamstress, but a woman with a future. Gaius, the youth, fidgets at first, his 16-year-old energy at odds with the sudatorium's calm. A messenger who sprints through Rome's forum. His legs lean from endless errands. Gaius is unused to stillness, but the heat tames him, his restlessness melting into quiet. The steam reminds him of his mother's kitchen, where she steams herbs, for his coughs, and he feels a pang of homesickness, a rare pause in his restless life. The sudatorium purges his impatience, leaving a lesson in patience, a strength he'll carry into Rome's streets. Gaius breathes deeply, the eucalyptus sharp, and resolves to run with purpose tomorrow, to listen to his mother's stories. The sudatorium is his teacher, a place where youth learns slowness, where he's not just a messenger, but a boy growing into a man. Let's introduce new voices to deepen the sudatorium's intimacy. Meet Philo, a philosopher in his 60s, his beard grey, his eyes sharp, who sits on a bench, his breath steady despite the heat. He teaches stoicism in Rome's porticos, urging calm amid life's storms. And the sudatorium is his practice, a place to live his own lessons. The steam purges his frustration with students who chase fame over wisdom, leaving gratitude for those who listen, for Rome's hunger for truth. Philo thinks of Zeno, his teacher's teacher, and feels part of a chain, his voice a link in philosophy's eternal dialogue. The sudatorium is his temple, where thought and body align, where he's not just a teacher, but a seeker. Then there's Decimus, a merchant in his 40s, his hands stained with indigo from trading dyes from Egypt. He sits heavily, his wealth a burden as heavy as his debts, his trade routes threatened by pirates. The sudatorium is his escape, the steam purging his fear of ruin, leaving a resolve to sail again, to trust the winds. Decimus thinks of his daughter, her laughter his anchor, and the sudatorium is his haven, a place where he's not just a merchant, but a father, a man with hope. Finally, meet Livia, a healer in her 30s, her hands scented with lavender from mixing salves for Rome's sick. She stands near the brazier, breathing the herbs deeply, her knowledge of their properties grounding her. The sudatorium is her ritual, purging her exhaustion from tending fevers, leaving strength to heal. Livia thinks of a child she saved, his mother's gratitude a balm, and the sudatorium is her renewal, a place where she's not just a healer but a woman, alive with purpose. The sudatorium's history stretches to Rome's early baths, its design perfected in Trajan's Thermae, funded by Dacian spoils. Its steam, its quiet, its intimacy are Rome's gift to its people, a space where body and soul purge their burdens. You rise, your skin slick, your mind clear, the steam's lessons in your bones. The sudatorium has done its work, preparing you for the next step, the libraries and lecture halls where the ritual turns to the mind's respite. You step from the sudatorium's steamy cocoon, the sharp bite of eucalyptus and soothing mint still lingering in your lungs, and pass through a marble archway into a corridor that feels like a transition from body to mind. The air cools, carrying the faint, dry scent of papyrus and beeswax, the heat of the baths giving way to a quiet hum of thought. The walls are adorned with frescoes of the Muses, Calliope, her epic scroll unfurled, Clio, her history tablet raised, Erato, strumming a lyre with delicate fingers, their colours vivid in the torchlight, their eyes seeming to follow you with serene encouragement. The floor, a mosaic of laurel branches in emerald and gold, leads you to a heavy cedar door, its surface carved with scenes of philosophers debating under olive trees. You push it open, the wood creaking softly, and enter the library of the Baths of Trajan, a sanctuary of the mind within the temple of the body. The room is vast, yet intimate, its high ceiling vaulted with panels painted as a starry sky, constellations shimmering in deep blue. The walls are lined with wooden niches, each holding rows of scrolls, their leather tags fluttering faintly in the breeze from narrow glass-paned windows high above. Marble busts of Homer, Virgil, and Seneca stand sentinel, their stern gazes softened by the golden flicker of oil lamps suspended on bronze chains. The floor is a tapestry of open books, their pages tiled in black and white, inviting you to tread on knowledge itself. Polished wooden tables, their surfaces scarred with faint scratches from styluses, gleam under the lamplight where bathers sit, some unrolling scrolls, others whispering debates, their voices a soft murmur against the library's hush. This is the library, a place of respite, where the ritual of self-care extends to the mind, where slowness becomes contemplation, and Rome's relentless noise yields to the whisper of ideas in 150 CE. You settle at a table, its cedar wood cool against your forearms, the grain worn smooth by countless scholars' hands. Your linen cloth, now dry after the sudatorium's sweat, brushes your thighs as you sit, the dampness of earlier rooms a memory. You've stowed your strigil, an empty oil vial, in a wicker basket provided by an attendant, their weight replaced by the promise of words. An attendant, his tunic crisp white linen, his hands stained faintly with ink, hands you a scroll of Horace, its papyrus crisp despite years of use, its leather tag embossed with the poet's name in neat Latin script. You unroll it carefully, the papyrus rustling like autumn leaves, the ink sharp and black, though faded slightly at the edges. The words blur at first. Your body still hums from the ritual's journey through the apoditerium's shedding, the tepidarium's warmth, the caldarium's fire, the frigidarium's shock, the palaestra's motion, the unctuarium's anointing, the garden's peace, the sudatorium's purge. But then they focus, Horace's verses of fields, wine, and life's fleeting joys pulling you into a world beyond Rome's stone and sweat. Around you, the library is alive but hushed, a symphony of quiet acts, scrolls rustling, styluses scratching wax tablets, breaths drawn in awe or argument. Lucius, the baker, scans a scroll of Pliny's natural history, his flower-rough fingers, hesitant but eager. Calpurnia, the matron, reads Sappho's fragments, her auburn braid catching the lamplight. Tiro, the slave, dares to sit, tracing a scroll's edge, unable to read, but longing to learn. Valeria, the widow, leans against a column, listening to a Stoic lecture in the adjacent hall, her tavern-keeper's mind hungry for wisdom. Marcus, the soldier, reads Livy's histories, his scarred arm steady. Aelius, the poet, scribbles verses on his wax tablet, the library his muse. Sabina, the freedwoman, sits cross-legged, listening to a poet's recitation nearby, her seamstress's hands still. Gaius, the youth, flips through Ovid's Ars Amatoria, giggling at its mischief. Philo, the philosopher, debates Zeno's paradoxes with a student in a corner. Decimus, the merchant, studies a scroll on trade routes, his indigo-stained hands. Careful. Livia, the healer, reads Hippocrates, her lavender-scented fingers tracing medical texts. The library is a microcosm of Rome's mind, a space where self-care includes the soul's hunger for knowledge, where slowness is the art of thought. Let's linger in the library, to feel its weight, to breathe its calm, to let its scrolls unravel the threads of your mind. You carry the ritual's lessons, the body cleansed, the spirit quieted, the heart opened. But now, in the library, the ritual turns to the intellect, demanding you pause, you read, you think. Perhaps you're Lucius, your bakery in the Subura, a furnace of debt and labour, seeking Pliny's wisdom to save your trade. Or Calpurnia, your daughter's betrothal a resolved ache, craving Sappho's poetry to stir your heart. Or Tiro, illiterate, but curious, this hour in the Thermae, a chance to dream of letters. Whoever you are, the library is a temple, its scrolls sacred, its silence a call to care for the mind as fiercely as the body. The library is a marvel of Roman ambition, a treasure trove of the empire's collected wisdom. The niches hold thousands of scrolls, Greek epics from Alexandria, Egyptian astronomical charts, Persian philosophies, Roman laws, all curated for Trajan's Thermae, a gift to Rome's people, not just its elite. The scrolls are papyrus, imported from Egypt's Nile Delta, their sheets glued and rolled by scribes whose hands bear ink's permanent stain. You imagine these scribes, their lamps burning late in Rome's scriptoria, copying Homer's hexameters, or Seneca's Stoic maxims, their work a bridge across centuries. The library's windows, high and narrow, are glazed with rare glass, their panes shimmering with the city's torchlight, a luxury that keeps dust from the scrolls. The busts, Homer's blind gaze, Virgil's serene brow, Seneca's furrowed. Intensity, a marble from Carrara, carved by artisans who saw poets as gods. The mosaic floor, its books open as if inviting you to step into their pages, is a masterpiece, each tile laid by hands as skilled as any poet's. The librarians, silent figures in white tunics, move like priests, retrieving scrolls, noting. Borrowers' names on wax tablets, ensuring this sanctuary of thought endures. The library's design, inspired by Alexandria's Great Museum, is Rome's claim to intellectual supremacy, a space where the mind is as vital as the body, where self-care includes the soul's quest for truth. Lucius, the baker, sits at a table, his broad frame hunched over Pliny's natural history, his flour-rough fingers tracing lines about grain yields and soil. The Subura's grind, debts, rats, clipped coins, has worn him thin, but the thermae have lightened his heart, and now the library sparks hope. He's 42, his back stooped from years at the oven, his eyes red from smoke, but here he's a student, not just a baker. Pliny's words on barley varieties, on drought-resistant crops, feel like a lifeline for his struggling bakery. Lucius reads slowly, his lips moving, the Latin unfamiliar, but clear in the library's hush. He thinks of his wife, her hands kneading beside him, and imagines a harvest that pays their debts, a loaf that feeds their neighbors. The library is his hope, a place to learn, to grow beyond the Subura's alleys. He glances at Tiro, the slave, sitting nearby, and nods, a silent acknowledgement of shared struggle. The thermae's ritual has woven them together, and the library seals that bond, a space where a baker and a slave can dream. Calpurnia, the matron, sits across from Lucius, a scroll of Sappho's fragments unrolled before her, its Greek script, a challenge she meets with quiet pride. Her auburn braid, loosened by the sudatorium's steam, catches the lamplight, strands glinting like copper. At 38, Calpurnia runs her Aventine household with grace, but her daughter's betrothal has stirred a longing for her own youth, for passions buried under duty. Sappho's words, love's ache, the moon's glow, cut through her, stirring memories of a suitor before her husband, a man whose laughter she still hears. The library is her refuge, a place to feel without judgment, to let poetry soften the edges of her life. She reads of a lover's glance, and her heart lifts, not with regret, but with gratitude for her daughter, whose future she's secured. Calpurnia glances at Sabina, the freedwoman, listening to a poet nearby, and smiles, their shared womanhood a quiet bond. The library is her mirror, reflecting a woman who loves, who dreams, who's more than Rome's roles. Tiro, the slave, dares to sit at a table, his scarred back hidden by his linen cloth, his hands trembling as he traces the edge of a scroll. He cannot read. At 22, Tiro serves in a Palatine villa, his life a cycle of labor and pain, his back a map of his master's whip. The thermae are his stolen hour, paid for with a pilfered coin, a risk that could cost him dearly. The library is a dream, a place where knowledge feels possible, where his illiteracy is a wound he longs to heal. He watches Aelius, the poet, scribbling verses, and leans closer, catching a word, aqua, spoken aloud. Tiro repeats it, his voice a whisper, the syllable a spark in his mind. Aelius notices, pauses, and points to the word on his tablet, teaching Tiro its shape. The moment is fleeting, But for Tiro, it's a revelation, a glimpse of a world where he could read, could speak, could be. The library is his rebellion, a space where his humanity burns brighter than his chains, where self-care is the courage to dream. Valeria, the widow, leans against a column near the lecture hall, her arms crossed, her face flushed from the sudatorium's heat. At 50, she runs a tavern near the Forum Boreum, her hands rough from pouring wine, her face lined with laughter and loss. Her husband died in a legionary campaign, leaving her to raise their son, now a soldier in Dacia. The Thermae are her escape, and the lecture hall, where a stoic philosopher speaks of enduring life's storms, is her strength. Valeria listens, her tavern keeper's mind sharp, nodding at the stoic's call to accept fate while shaping what you can. She thinks of her son's letters, rare but cherished, and resolves to write him, to share her pride. The lecture hall is her hearth, warming her spirit, a place where wisdom is as vital as wine. She catches Philo's eye, the philosopher nearby, and joins his debate, her voice bold despite her trade. The library is her stage, where she's not just a widow, but a woman, alive with thought. Marcus, the retired soldier, sits with Livy's ab urbe condita, his scarred arm steady, the scroll's weight grounding him. At 40, his limp and scars from Parthian battles mark him, but his warehouse job is quieter, his wars a memory. The Thermae ease his aches, and the library soothes his soul. Livy's tales of Rome's founding a reminder of why he fought. He reads of Romulus, of sacrifice, and thinks of comrades lost, their names fading but their courage clear. The library is his peace, a place where history holds his pain, where self-care is remembering without regret. Marcus glances at Decimus, the merchant, studying nearby, and nods, their shared silence a bond of survival. The library is his anchor, tying him to Rome's eternal story. Elias, the poet, sits with his wax tablet, his ink-stained fingers scratching verses about steam, stars and Rome's pulse. At 28, his poems fill taverns but not palaces, his ambition a fire that threatens to consume him. The library is his muse, its quiet loosening his thoughts, letting words flow like the Tiber. He writes of the Thermae, of water as life, and feels a spark of pride, a hope that his verses might endure. The library is his canvas, where he's not just a dreamer, but a poet, part of Rome's voice. He shares a line with Tiro, teaching him aqua, and feels a rare connection, his art touching a slave's dream. The library is his gift, a space where words weave community. Sabina, the freedwoman, sits cross-legged, listening to a poet recite in the lecture hall, her seamstress's hands still for once. At 30, her shop in the Vicus Tuscus is her freedom, won through years of servitude in a senator's household. The Thermae are her celebration, and the library is her horizon, a place where stories stir her dreams. The poet's tale of a sailor's love moves her, reminding her of a freedman who smiled at her market stall. The library is her future, a space where she's not just a seamstress, but a woman with possibilities. She glances at Calpurnia, their shared smile a quiet bond, and feels woven into Rome's tapestry. Gaius, the youth, flips through Ovid's Ars Amatoria, his 16-year-old energy barely contained, his giggles breaking the library's hush. A messenger sprinting through Rome's forum, his legs lean from errands. Gaius is unused to stillness, but the Thermae have calmed him, and Ovid's mischief delights him. He reads of lovers' tricks, blushing but grinning, seeing Rome's streets anew. The library is his playground, where knowledge is a game, where self-care is laughter. He catches Livia's amused glance and winks, his youth a spark in the quiet. The library is his teacher, guiding his restless heart. Philo, the philosopher, debates Zeno's paradoxes with a student, his grey beard damp from the sudatorium, his eyes sharp, At 60, he teaches Stoicism in Rome's porticos, urging calm amid chaos. The library is his practice, a place to live his lessons, to purge frustration with fame-seeking students. He argues motion's illusion, but his heart is with his listeners, like Valeria, who join his debate. The library is his temple, where thought aligns with life, where he's a seeker, not just a teacher. Decimus the merchant studies a scroll on Red Sea trade routes, his indigo-stained hands careful, his debts a shadow. At 40, his dye trade is threatened by pirates, but the Thermi have lightened his fear, and the library offers solutions, ports, winds, allies. He thinks of his daughter, her laughter his anchor, and resolves to sail again. The library is his map, guiding his trade, his fatherhood, his hope. Livia, the healer, reads Hippocrates, her lavender-scented fingers tracing cures for fevers. At 30, she tends Rome's sick, her salves easing pain, her exhaustion eased by the Thermi. The library is her renewal, Hippocrates' wisdom strengthening her craft. She thinks of a child she saved, his mother's gratitude a balm, and resolves to study more. The library is her strength, where she's a healer, a woman, alive with purpose. Let's introduce Claudia, a scribe in her late 20s, her hands ink-stained, her tunic smudged from copying scrolls for the library. She sits, checking a borrower's tablet, her work unseen but vital. The Thermi are her reward, the library her home, where she reads Plato in secret, dreaming of philosophy. The library is her voice, where she's not just a scribe, but a thinker, part of Rome's mind. The library's history is Rome's intellectual triumph, funded by Trajan's Dacian spoils, inspired by Alexandria's museum. Its scrolls, its busts, its glass windows are a gift to all, from bakers to scribes, making thought a ritual as vital as bathing. You rise, Horace's words in your heart, ready for the return to Rome, carrying the library's light, a slowness that sharpens your mind, a care that weaves you into the city's eternal song. The cedar door of the library swings shut behind you, its soft creak fading into the murmur of Rome's evening, a city that never truly sleeps. You stand at the threshold of the baths of Trajan, the marble arches of its grand entrance looming, like a farewell to a world apart. The air is cool now, scented with the dust of the Via Appia and the faint smoke of hearths burning in the Subura's insulae, pulling you back to the Rome of 150 CE. Its cobblestones, its clamour, its relentless pulse. Your tunic, retrieved from the Apoditerium's cubby, feels rough against your polished skin, a reminder of the world beyond the Thermi's embrace. Your sandals creak as you step forward, the strigil and oil vial returned, their work etched into your body's memory. Skin clean, muscles soft, mind clear. The baths have woven their magic through you, from the Apoditerium's shedding to the Tepidarium's warmth, the Caldarium's fire, the Frigidarium's shock, the Palaestra's motion, the Unctuarium's anointing, the garden's peace, the Sudatorium's purge, and the library's wisdom. You carry their light, a quiet flame of slowness that burns through Rome's chaos, a testament to the ritual of self-care that defined an empire and whispers to us still. This is the legacy of the Roman baths, not just marble and water, but a philosophy of pause, a rebellion against haste, a gift of stillness that binds Lucius the baker, Calpurnia the matron, Tyro the slave, Valeria the widow, Marcus the soldier, Aelius the poet, Sabina the freedwoman, Gaius the youth, Philo the philosopher, Decimus the merchant, Livia the healer, and Claudia the scribe into a shared humanity, eternal as Rome itself. The baths of Trajan, opened in 109 CE, were more than an emperor's monument. They were Rome's heart, a space where the empire's grandeur met its humblest citizens. Built with Dacian spoils, their marble halls, aqueduct-fed, pools and Hippocaust-warmed floors were a triumph of engineering, a testament to a culture that saw bathing as a right, not a luxury. The Thermae blurred Rome's hierarchies. Senators sweated beside slaves, matrons laughed with seamstresses, soldiers shared stories with poets, creating a fleeting equality rooted in the body's needs, the soul's hunger for care. You think of Lucius, his flower-dusted hands finding hope in Pliny's scrolls, his resolve to face the Subura's debts strengthened by the ritual's rhythm. Calpurnia, her auburn braid loosened, her heart eased by Sappho's verses, steps back into her Aventine home with love for her daughter's future. Tiro, his scarred back hidden, carries a dream of literacy, a word, aqua, learned in the library, a spark against his chains. Valeria's laughter, bright as her tavern's wine, echoes in the lecture hall, her widow's strength renewed by stoic wisdom. Marcus, his limp softened, finds peace in Livy's histories, his wars a fading echo. Aelius's verses, scratched in the library, burn with Rome's pulse, his poet's heart alive. Sabina, her seamstress's hands still, dreams of love in the poet's recitation, her freedom brighter. Gaius, giggling at Ovid, runs Rome's streets with new purpose, his youth tempered. Philo's stoic calm, honed in debate, guides his students through life's storms. Decimus, his indigo-stained hands steady, plans a trade voyage, his daughter's laughter his anchor. Livia, her lavender-scented fingers tracing Hippocrates, heals Rome's sick with renewed strength. Claudia, the scribe, her ink-stained hands dreaming of Plato, finds her voice in the library's hush. These lives, woven through the Thermae's rooms, are the bath's true legacy, a mosaic of care, each tile a story, each story a thread in Rome's eternal fabric. The bath's history is one of ambition and intimacy, a balance Rome perfected. The Aqua Traiana, its arches stretching across the Campagna, fed the pools with spring water, a marvel of engineering that made the ritual possible. The Hippocaust's hidden fires, stoked by unseen slaves, warmed the floors, a reminder that even Rome's grandeur rested on labor's quiet sacrifice. The libraries, stocked with scrolls from Alexandria to Persia, made knowledge a public good, a care as vital as water. By 150 CE, Rome boasted hundreds of baths, from Trajan's Colossus to neighborhood balneae, serving millions who saw the Thermae as temples to Hygeia, Venus and Apollo. Philosophers debated in lecture halls, poets recited in gardens, athletes wrestled in palaestrae, all part of a ritual that nourished body, mind and soul. The baths were Rome's social glue, binding a city of Subura slums and Palatine villas, of bakers and emperors, into a shared act of slowness. Yet this legacy was not eternal. By the 5th century, invasions and crumbling aqueducts silenced the Thermae. The baths of Trajan, once vibrant, fell to ruin, their marbles looted, their mosaics buried under dust. The Middle Ages forgot slowness, trading baths for austerity, but the Thermae's spirit lingered. In Byzantium's hammams, in Renaissance bathhouses, in the quiet corners where people sought care. Today, we chase slowness in spas, in meditation apps, in moments stolen from our own relentless Rome. The Thermae whisper to us, reminding us that self-care is not indulgence, but necessity, that community thrives in shared rituals, that slowness is a rebellion against time's tyranny. Lucius's resolve, Calpurnia's love, Tiero's dream, Valeria's laughter. They live in us when we pause, when we care, when we let the world's noise fade. You step onto the Via Appia, its cobblestones, hard under your sandals, Rome's chaos swirling, vendors shouting, carts rumbling, torches flickering. But you carry the bath's stillness, a light that softens the Subura's alleys, the Aventine's homes, the Forum's crowds. The Thermi have taught you to breathe, to feel your body, to honor your mind, to weave yourself into community. There, legacy is not marble but memory, not water but wisdom, a call to slowness that echoes across centuries. As you walk, Horace's words linger. Carpe diem, quam minimum credula postero. Seize the day, trusting little in tomorrow. The baths. Seize the moment, not with haste, but with care, with ritual, with the eternal stillness that makes us whole.